All right, friends. So this is my second video in a series about how I moved my son out of the public high school to the community college to finish his high school diploma work. And today I'm going to talk about why you might want to do it and who is a good candidate for this type of school situation. So a little bit about me. Again, my name is Michelle. I have 3 kids, and I'm not an educator. I am my bachelor's degree is in mathematics. I have worked as a software engineer for my entire career. But mostly I'm just a mom out here in these streets trying to raise whole people. And I have not been satisfied all the time with the product offering from the public school system. I'm a huge supporter of public schools. My mother taught for 30 years in the public school system in Austin, Texas. And I went to public schools. I graduated from a magnet school in Austin, the Liberal Arts Academy at Johnston. It was an amazing school. I had an amazing experience. I read so many books, and I attribute my success in college to the training that I got in that high school. But fast forward, the current day schooling is a very different place. My own children have had a mixture of school situations for various reasons. When they were born, when they started off, obviously they went to private preschool. They went to, I started them off in public schools. We lived in one area outside of Houston, and my oldest son was going to start school. We picked up and we moved to Fort Bend County because everybody says, oh, the Fort Bend ISD, like that's the best school district. We picked a neighborhood that was nice, that we could afford, and we sent our son to school. He had a really good year, kindergarten and first grade. Second grade, they built a new school. We moved him to that school. My second son started school, and this is where the problem started, right? So my expectations of the school were not in line with what they were offering. Some of it was social, some of it was economic. I don't want to turn this into grievance politics about schools, but there are many reasons why our kids are not able to be successful in those environments. So a year passed, and I just, some people at my church were telling me about a school, and we just decided to move them to the Christian school. I was driving in the city for work, so they went there a couple years. I was pretty happy with that situation, but it was very expensive. I think an average family would not have been able to afford to put 2 kids in a school like that. Maybe the tuition was $10,000 or $12,000 per child, but we did it. And then my husband got a job. Well, the job that he had transferred him to live overseas for a couple years. So we left and we went overseas, and I homeschooled my kids in those years. There was an international school available, but I really wanted to know what they knew. I hadn't been that involved with their education. And so I just decided that, I was going to teach them myself so I could see where they were at and, have an opportunity to teach them some things that were important to me. We read books and we did the math, and, we lived in a great community that was seaside. And so we had finished school every day in 3.5 hours. And then we were out on the beach, and it was good times. We came back to the United States, and I thought that they needed a little bit more transition back into regular school situation. So we tried this hybrid school where, you go to school 2 days a week, university model, I guess they're calling it. And then they do the, kind of like a homeschool thing at home. I didn't love that. A lot of people have a lot of success with that. I didn't love it. For our family, it was not a good move. There were very few families of color in that school, and I just didn't feel my kids got on well. My oldest son really struggled, so he didn't even finish out the school year in that school. We went ahead and just moved him to our local public school. He wanted to go. He wanted to meet more friends. He wanted to know people. We moved to a different area in Houston than we had been living before. We were living abroad. So, so I put him in the public middle school. When my youngest son finished out the year, then he started that next year at the public middle school, and they both went there. Turned out to be a huge disaster for my oldest son. He had ADHD, and he couldn't manage in that environment well. He did finish out middle school, but in high school he ended up going to a private high school, and he stayed private for the duration. My middle son, my second son, he got in band, and so he had kind of a community. He also started at a natural entry point at 6th grade, so his social situation was a bit better. Then my oldest son had started like at the end of 7th grade, so the cliques had already formed and people already knew everybody. So he made some friends, but it wasn't a real good situation for him. Also both of them struggled because we had lived in the Middle East, and in the community where we came to live in, there was just a lot of ignorance about Muslims, about Middle East, people from the Middle East. And when they would tell people that that's where they were living, the kids and their suicide bomber and terrorist comments, they really, felt very insulted and were really stressed out by that. So, everybody handles that kind of stuff differently. So, it just was never like a great social situation for them. It was, for, like I said, my youngest son, it was good. It was okay, but it wasn't great. By then my daughter, who I had given birth to abroad, was starting school. She started, obviously, I stayed at home for some years after she was born, even when we moved back here. But after she was born, I went back to work after maybe she was 3 or 4. I put her in the preschool in our neighborhood that most everybody in this neighborhood sends their kids to. And then she started at the public school. And so she is in grade 6 now, 7, and she still is in public school. I'm very happy with her situation. What I was able to do was to put her in a magnet program in 1st grade, a Spanish immersion program. And I felt that that program, they've had better teachers. And there's just been more attention put on the outcomes in that program than in the general population. So whereas I had to move her around to different schools to keep her in the program, I have had a lot of success, and I felt like her academic situation was really good. So, that's about me. I'm not here claiming to be any kind of, expert on high school. Like I said, I'm just a mom out here trying to raise my kids, trying to give them the best opportunities available that is within our means. We pay a lot of money in property taxes to our local school district. And so I want to be able to get a return on that investment. I don't want to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars outside of that on private schools. And so, back to this community college situation, everybody who lives in Texas who's paying property taxes pays, for the most part, pays into a community college system. If you live in the Houston area, for sure, you pay to a community college system. And so this is a way that you can capitalize on something that you don't have to spend extra money for. So it's not 100% free, but it's very low cost. And I'm going to share some ways that you actually can get it down to close to free if you're not, in a district in a community college district that has the free tuition. Even those that have free tuition for high school students, there's still some other costs. But let's get back to who is a candidate for this type of school situation. everyone who applies to community college is accepted if they meet the regulations. That's just the rule. Community colleges don't have selection criteria. Everybody's accepted. So if your child is a high school student in Texas, they're going to be accepted. Okay. There is an exam that is called the Texas Success Initiative, TSI, that the students have to take to be able to take college level courses. There's a math section and a reading section. These tests are not super hard exams. I would say they're more in line with the STAR test, right? If your kid took the STAR test and did okay, you're going to be fine. The math is covering basic math, I would say up to 8th, 9th grade math. So if they've taken Algebra 1, they're good to go. If they understood the information, they should be good to go. And the reading test, obviously, it's just some grammar, some basic literacy stuff. It's not too complex. Like there probably isn't a whole lot of preparation that, an average child who was in 9th or 10th or 11th grade would need to go and pass that test. But if they were not doing well in school, if they were already struggling with high school material, I would say that this would not be a good option for them. Even if they can pass that test, there's reading requirements in some of the classes, and you want to make this move a better thing than what is going on at the high school, right? You want to set them up for success, and you would not want to put them in a situation where they lack the literacy skills to be successful. When you're a high school graduate, it's a different situation because they will put them in some different courses to support building up their literacy skills, but those are not available for high school students. So don't say, okay, well, my kid's struggling with reading and I'm going to move them to the community college. That's not going to work. Okay. So they need to have good, solid literacy skills and math skills up through kind of algebra, beginning algebra 1. What else do they need to have? They need to be organized. They need to, be able to manage the schoolwork that they have. And most high schools, they have 7 classes, and middle schools also. So if they're able to keep up with their homework and know what they need to do without you being on their backs about those things, then they'll probably are good to go. They need to have some level of maturity, okay? And so this is the important part where, they're expecting kids to go and be on these campuses, to join online classes and with other adults, right? At the community college, it's not just college-age kids, right? Everybody's taking classes at the community college. Your kid could be in a class with some people who are in their 30s. The professors are expecting absolute self-control and maturity from these kids. If your kids have behavior problems or they're popping off at school or always want to be the class clown and making jokes, they need to be at the high school. That's the place for them, not at the community college. They need to be able to manage themselves socially. What do I mean by that? Like, a lot of kids now struggle with basic social skills, being able to greet an adult, to look a person in the eye, to have a conversation with someone that they don't know. These are things that are going to be expected of them in that environment, especially when they are taking courses in person. There's like some discussion component. People will come up to them and ask them questions. Hey, what's your name? It's very different. It's just like a normal social situation. In a high school, the social situation is just different, right? It's not, they kids have their cliques and, they kind of know like their group. They're going to go into this environment. They're not going to have a group for them, most probably, right? So they need to be able to navigate themselves socially. They need to be able to have a basic conversation with, if someone comes up to them and asks them questions. They need to be able to feel comfortable talking to and going to an adult for support, okay? What do I mean by this, right? Like if you have a class and you don't understand something, or the instructor gave directions and it wasn't clear, they need to be able to go and ask and clarify. Excuse me, Mr. So-and-so, I just had a question about these, instructions, or I had a question about this book. The students who are the most successful in this environment are not students who will just go to instructors and professors when they have need clarity or they need support. Some of them will need to be able to go and say, hey, I was reading this book and I was just really fascinated by this, and I was wondering what you thought about this other thing, right? They need to be able to carry on a conversation about what they're learning and show some interest in what they're learning. So if your child would not be able to do that, I won't say they won't be successful. I'm going to say it's an area that you would want to be working with them on, and something you could work with them on at home, by sitting down and asking questions about what they're doing. But if you're going to try to move this way, just start working on it now. Like it's social skills are skills that can be developed and learned. So that's something that you can teach them, but they'll need to be able to really converse and ask questions and be clear when they're asked a question, to respond in a group setting. If they're called on, they need to be able to respond with some maturity and some social prowess. Another thing that your child will need possibly is transportation to and from your local community college. So yes, they can probably take every class online. Is it a good idea for your teen to spend all their time at home in front of the computer and never out in the world socializing and being around other humans? Probably not. So I'm going to put that with a caveat, because I recognize that there are some kids who, have anxiety or some mental health struggles. And part of the reason why they're not able to be successful in the community college, in the high school world, it has to do with some social issues. And so you think, okay, well, bringing them in the home for a little bit, that's gonna help them. And so you got to kind of figure that piece out for yourself. But for the average student who is going every day to a high school and they're spending their time there, they have some conversations, some connections with other humans. And it's going to be hard for them to go and move from that environment to home. Now, if you're moving them because they need to do some childcare or some other thing, in your home, I don't know, like maybe, that's every family's got to figure that piece out on their own. But for the most part, we would want them to try and go to campus 1 or 2 days a week. I would think. So your kid has all these things. They can go past the exams. They have the requisite amount of maturity. They have the ability to do the things that they need to do, to talk and to do the work that is going to be expected of them. What do you need to be able to bring to that situation as a parent? You need to be able to check in with your kid. So in a high school, there are all these supports built in if the child doesn't do what they're supposed to do, right? You're going to get emails about poor grades. You're going to get, 1 second, y'all. I have an actual job and people sometimes be texting me outside of work hours. They have all these supports built in whereby, if the child doesn't do what they need to do, if they have a behavior problem, you're going to get notified. If they have missed an exam, you're going to get notified. If they have chronic tardiness, you're going to get notified, right? Those supports are not built in at the community college. So you need to be checking in with your child on a regular basis, right? You need to be able to have a system like a meeting on Fridays where they pull up the portal from the school and you walk through the assignments. You see if the assignments were completed. You see the grades for it, right? Because you're still a parent, right? And they're still kids. There are some kids out there who are working with this extraordinary amount of self-determination and independence and maturity, and you don't really work with them now. They manage all that on their own. So, those kids probably be okay. But the average teen, right, even though they are capable of doing college level work, they still need you to check in with them. They still need some level of accountability. And what you wouldn't want to happen is for the whole semester to go by and then one assignment, because they're in the college, there can be one assignment that's worth 20% of your grade or 30% of your grade. Unlike at the high school where they try to make sure no 1 or 2 assignments can tank your whole grade. and that one assignment doesn't get done, they have an F. As a high school student, if they make an F, they're going to be put on a level of probation. In some cases, in some community colleges, they're not able to continue with the program as a high school student because the school doesn't think that they're ready to do that, right? Like, this is a privilege to be able to come and work ahead. And so you just want to set them up for success. You don't want them to be in a situation where, you know, they were being a teen, they forgot about something, and then, you know, they have A's in all these other classes and they made one F, and then, you know, you got problems. So just, you need to be able to stay on top of them. You need to be able to go to the advisor meetings, right? So advisor meetings can happen virtually now, so it's probably not, but you need to be present for that. So what do I mean? So when my son was at the community college, parents could not go in and physically register for the classes. We had to send an email to the advisor, or, you know, communicate with the advisor saying, listen, these are the classes that are on the high school degree plan, and these are the classes that they are going to take that are going to meet these classes. And that had to go every semester. When, you know, as soon as you could register, you could send this email, and that guy would do the registration on our behalf. Sometimes they won't talk about it. And so you can, you know, if you're feeling good and confident about it, you can probably send these emails, but it's always a good opportunity to just to have a meeting, like, you know, and you can schedule these meetings in the portal, you can send an email, but you don't want to like put your kid to where they're having to work with this guidance counselor or this kind of, you know, counselor on their own. You know, you want to be able to give them some support. So I would be present at those meetings. I would make sure that I was actively involved in choosing the classes. At least if your student is doing it, that you are aware and that you approve and that you agree that these are the classes that they need to take for whatever reason. Okay, and the last thing that you as a parent have to do is you have to be able to manage the transcripts. So remember, your kids are taking the classes at the college, but they're technically considered homeschool. So what happens when you enroll your kid into your high school child into community college is you're entering into a homeschool agreement with the college. They have like a little contract you fill out, and you say, yeah, okay, this is my homeschool name, and I'm the administrator. I'm the person that's responsible for this child because they're a child, right? And you give them over, like I said, a degree plan, saying this is the diploma plan. I'm going to go over this in the next couple of videos about what the diploma plans look like. You know, this is stuff that's all available online. It's not a secret. It's just not, you know, available in a format that most parents would need to be able to access it. But there's a diploma plan, just like at the regular high school. Like, you got to have X credits of math, and you got to have X credits of English, and you got to have X credits. Well, you get a lot of creativity with figuring out which classes they're going to take at the community college that are going to fill those credits. And you, the parent, because you are the homeschool administrator, you must understand which classes, what the diploma requirements are, and what the courses are that they're taking. So most children you are going to sign them up for a program, right? So this is the piece where you can just move them to the community college because high school sucks, and then they finish, and then they go on and do what they're going to do. But where you get an edge is when you say, I'm going to move you to the community college, and then we're going to start our career work, whatever that is. So if they're college bound, like for my son, we were able to go and download a sheet of paper from the community college website that says, if you want to go to Prairie View A&M University and study electrical engineering, then these are all the classes that you need to take to transfer in a 2+2 form to the university. So what we did was we made sure that all of the classes that he was taking for high school included those classes that were on that 2+2 degree plan. Okay, so say your kid doesn't want to go to the university, that's fine. Say your kid wants to get, I don't know, a certificate in, you know, whatever, okay? You're going to look at that certificate program and say, how can I align these classes with these diploma requirements, right? There's a bunch of electives on high school diploma requirement. There's, you know, an English class, you know, and English is different things, right? English is public speaking. English can be, interpretation. English, there's foreign language requirements, right? So there's Spanish, there's French. They have so many more languages than they offer at the high school. So you get to have some creativity with saying, okay, well, these classes are the ones you want to take for your career, and this is how we're going to line these up with the classes that you need to finish high school. So that's the real work in this whole thing, right? Like, there's some administrative stuff, but you got to go to the high school and enroll your kid and sign them up. That if you move to a new place, you got to physically go over there and sign them up. This is not really any different. But the school takes care of that work in the high school format, and you're going to have to take care of this work when you put your kid in a community college. Okay. So the kid's ready to go. You say, I can do all these things. I'm ready to go. The thing that both of you have to have, okay, and this is really important, you have to have a resolve to finish what you started. Because if your kid, say he's in 10th grade, she, whomever, they're having problems socially, they say, I don't want to go to school anymore. Okay, you know what? Fine, we move you over here to community college. You pull a program that they're going to do. You're happy. You're working it. They go to class 1 or 2 days a week, and then, they're doing some online things. And then the next year they're bored. They're like, you know what, Mom, I want to go back to the high school. All of those classes that you decided, the way that they lined up to the high school degree requirements, might not be the classes that will actually be a dual credit for your high school. It's a dual credit for your homeschool, right? So, then you would end up with some problems trying to race and figure out, well, something that I decided was going to be for an English credit, that school won't take it, right? You can get around that by looking at the dual credit requirements for the school. Like, you can just say, okay, the school says these are the classes that they take for dual credit, and just take those in case they want to go back. Like this, you can work around it. But the odds of your child finding a class that they're going to want to take for an elective or for whatever that is not on that list is high, because the community colleges offer lots and lots of courses that are not offered at a high school. And you don't want to be in a situation where they've done all this work and then it's for nothing, or they move to the community college and then they don't like it and then they can't easily move back. So that is something as a family you guys got to figure out. And you wouldn't want to start something and then not be able to finish it, and then put yourself in a worse situation than you were before you moved. So that's just something to consider. So I've talked long enough. I'm resolved to keep every one of these videos less than 30 minutes. So the next time that I post a video, the next one in this series is going to be about what we actually are going to do. I'm going to show you the legislation from the state of Texas. I'm going to show you what the actual high school degree requirements are. And I'm going to tell you what, they're probably different, the state requirements, than what the high school is telling you. Because the high schools, they just do whatever. But I'll get into that in the next video. What legislation makes this possible for you. So remember that I'm in the state of Texas, and every state is different. There are some states that do not have this program. I'm showing you guys, if you are living in Texas, how to do this. And so some of you are going to be like, oh, I don't really live in a community college district. Like, there's so many community colleges now that take anybody in the whole state of Texas. So I've got some lists. I'm going to post those. And I'm going to explain that next video. So just sit tight and come in and join me and understand what this process is, what it looks like. I promise you it's not that hard. If I could do it, so can you. All right. See you next time.